Namaskar, good morning everyone. Welcome to the Editorial Edge. Once again, I'm back every morning as I am to bring to you the latest edition, the daily news analysis that we do here. Okay. Before I begin, can I just quickly request you to just let me know if everything is okay. Can you see me all right? Can you hear me all right? If for those of you who are watching me live, just let me know very quickly so that we may begin. Once again, those who are joining us for the first time, I'm Bhuvan. I take care of the daily news analysis purely in English language on a daily basis. Okay, we look at articles from the end-to-end perspective, right from prelims up until interviews, basically taking a deep dive into the article. Okay. Good morning, dance floor. Good morning, coder. Shabnam Khatun. Thank you so much for your message. I'm immensely grateful. Thank you, dance floor, for letting me know. Okay. So on our agenda today, we have two articles, one which we will go into an extreme depth in. Okay, we will take into consideration both the articles today, which have been in fact published in the Indian Express. Okay, and this I think you must have imagined, or you must be noticing by now that the Indian Express has specifically started tailoring its whole content for UPSC students, or at least it's very relevant now. Good morning, Madhusudan. How are you? Okay, so Indian Express is a very good newspaper to follow, obviously, in addition to Hindu. But that's not all that we look at here. We look at Hindu, we look at Indian Express, we look at Economic Times, Financial Times, the various environmental portals that you have. Any news from across the world that has a perspective to offer in terms of not just prelims but also mains. That's what we look at doing here. Biswajit Das, Bulbul Gupta, welcome. Thank you for joining, all of you. Thank you. All right. So before we begin, these are the two articles that I'm looking at. National Bank for Financial Infrastructure and Development, the NABFID. Okay. So this is going to be our first agenda. What does it essentially do? Okay. If you look at it in the long run, or if you just understand the long-term perspective, okay, India requires a lot of finance, especially for infrastructure creation, infrastructure building. Now, who is going to fund that? Okay. Because if you look at the contemporary, the real-time statistics, you will find that the government of India is roughly funding, say, 95% of the infrastructure projects in India. Okay, close to 95% in fact. So do you realize that that's a huge burden on the exchequer? Those funds that could ideally have been, say, gone ahead and invested in, say, health or energy or whatever else. Anything that will uplift the population, well, it is having to go ahead and build bridges or build sustainable cities. Now, obviously, you might say, what's wrong with that? Okay, I agree. It is the government's responsibility to go ahead for infrastructure creation. However, it has to play the role of a facilitator. Okay, it can't be the primary stakeholder in this. So what's the way going forward? That you include, say, the private industry in it. If you look at how the developed world does it, it's not that the government funds their infrastructure creation. A lot of it is done in partnership model. Okay. In fact, the PPP model that you must have understood of or heard of so far, the public-private partnership model, that is very well leveraged by, say, the developing world, the developed world, in fact. Okay. So we'll take a look. What is wrong? Where are we lacking? And what has the government done so far? Again, a very important article, especially if you're looking to understand infrastructure financing deficit. Okay. Infrastructure financing, no? So where do you get the money to build your whole infrastructure in the country? I've given you a brief introduction, but we'll really go in depth of this topic so that you completely understand the whole scenario. All right. That's first article. Thereafter, the second one is on museums. Now, I had a choice. Again, like I always have every morning, I had a choice which one do I want to cover. Because there's another article in the Indian Express, the editorial in fact, which is writing about monsoons. Okay. And the onset of monsoons, thereafter its interplay with El Nino, and how will it affect, say, the Kharif and the Rabi crops. Okay. So this is something we will discuss if I have the time at the end, because this is a very easy linkage to understand. So in one line, if I have to explain to you, right now our monsoon coverage is close to 95% of the whole geographical area of the country. Okay. Which is good insofar as you're looking to, say, sow the seeds. Right now you're looking at seed sowing. This is the soil, you're going ahead and planting seeds. Rainfall coming, good for it. It will germinate. But is that all? Because eventually in July, August onwards, if you look at the climate forecasters, they have said that the El Nino will start, say, from July, okay, the effects of El Nino, and it will continue up till January. So you're looking at, say, rain deficit from June to, say, around December, which will not just affect, say, the kharif crops that you have gone ahead and sowed now, because again, right now the germination will happen, but then it requires more water, no, to eventually become a full-fledged crop. So you are looking at that being affected. Also, you are looking at your winter sowing season being affected. So what are you going to do about it? So you have better irrigation. Good morning, Bipen. Welcome, welcome. What are you going to do about it? How are you going to, say, make sure that water is available? You know, because again, if you have straight away gone ahead and compromised with your agriculture, especially in a season like this and in El Nino year, you know it's bad news. Okay, because again, agriculture employs a large amount of people, core sector. Agriculture, food prices go up, inflation in food goes up, you know, it's bad news. And that too ahead of an election year. Next year is the election year. So it's not just imperative from the, say, human point of view, but also from the governance point of view, there will be an increased thrust on making sure that this year's cropping season goes fine. So what could be done? Okay. We'll discuss that. Obviously, you must have understood the gist of it, but we'll see if we have time. Okay, so for those of you who are joining me for the first time, this is my Telegram channel. We are very close to 100 subscribers or 100, what do you call them? Group members. You know, so I would request you, go ahead and make that happen for me. 100 people in my Telegram channel. We do share articles, PDFs from time to time. It's just a fledgling channel, but I'd be really appreciative. I'd appreciate it if you go ahead and join it. Good morning, Ankit. How are you? Welcome, welcome. All right. So let's get into it, guys. This is the article I'm talking about from the Indian Express. Read the article after you have spent, say, 40 minutes with me understanding what I'm going to tell you. Then you will be able to make sense of it thoroughly. Okay. So let's look at this question first, because we obviously try and learn from a question perspective. That way you understand what you're supposed to know, what you're not supposed to know in an article. Okay. Look at this article now. Borrowing from RBI, scheduled commercial banks, mutual fund and multilateral development banks. Lending to depositors, raising money through loans, bonds and debentures. Which of the above are within the operating remit of the National Bank for Infrastructure Development? Thanks, dance floor. Grateful, grateful. Okay. So what would your assessment be? If you do not know the answer to this, don't worry. That's the whole point of this. We'll spend the next 40 minutes making sure that your concepts are clear, so that at the end of the 40 minutes, if you look at this, you'll be like, ये तो बहुत आसान सवाल है. ठीक है. So keep this in mind and we'll discuss this after we have discussed what I'm going to discuss. Alright. So the NABFID now. What is the NABFID? The National Bank for Financing Infrastructure and Development. Straight away you will know the two keywords. It is looking to finance infrastructure and development. Now you might straight away ask me, why do we need a bank to go ahead and finance infrastructure? Why not the existing banks? Why can't they do it? Why can't SBI do it? Fair question to ask. Please understand that all of these infrastructure projects are capital intensive. They require huge amounts of money. Okay. Our banks are already stressed. If they start doling out money, giving out money, you know, their say capital requirements will be affected. So you need another entity altogether. You know, it's always important to have a specialized financing entity whenever you are looking at a capital intensive project where you will require lots of money. Okay. So which is why you went ahead and made this particular bank. This was launched in the year 2021. Is it? 2021. So what is the bank now? It is the Principal Development Financial Institution, the DFI. Again, a key term that you should know for infrastructure financing. So it's a development financial institution. We'll understand what development financial institution do now. They provide long-term finance for such segments of the economy where the risks are beyond the acceptable limits of commercial banks. See, SBI can't do it. Firstly, why? Because it is capital intensive. The moment you loan out or give out that amount of money, huge amount of money, straight away the bank's risk factor of the bank increases. Okay? Because again, banks are holding whose money? Money of you and I, no? So if the bank is at risk, which means our money is at risk, what's going to happen next? The public confidence in the bank might be shook. You don't want that. Okay. So straight away, you need a particular agency that will take sure of this. So how are you going to insulate this agency now? Suppose if it has huge amounts of money, okay? You have given it the money that it needs. If it starts giving to people, how is it different from SBI? Straight away, logic. Okay, if it starts giving to people, तो फिर आप SBI से करा लेते ना. So it will not deposit to people, lend to people, sorry. Okay. It will not give you loans. As an individual, you will not get. Hi Jyoti, good morning, welcome. Straight away you get it. That's the rationale behind this. So that the risk factor is reduced. Okay. Rather, what they do is they raise money for infrastructure financing from the market, from the government, and the MDBs. We have discussed MDBs in detail in this series, multilateral development banks. What's the problem with them? And what if you have followed that lecture, the multilateral development bank, which was done on the 16th of this month, I'm not sure, but somewhere around that date. What you will realize is the problems that affect, say, the multilateral development banks or the challenges that, say, MDBs face, World Bank, Asian Development Bank, all of these banks. The same challenges are being faced by these agencies also. Now, if you go back and recall what I had told you, that, say, in your financing model, you need to account for a climate perspective to it. That your financing model should be in relevance to the climate changes that are going to happen. Okay, same thing here. So what they do is they raise money for infrastructure financing from these three stakeholders. Central government owns 100% of the shares right now, which will subsequently be reduced to 26%. So initially with a capital of, say, 1 lakh crores, this agency has come up. Now, what is its function? So this is how it is set up. It's a development financial institution. It will undertake infrastructure financing. It will look to plug the gap of infrastructure financing deficit. What is the infrastructure financing deficit? Now you will quickly understand. It's a story essentially. Let me just clean this up so that it's easier for you to see. So what is infra financing deficit? Okay, these are terms, guys, and I suggest you take down notes. I will make this PDF available on my Telegram channel, but I suggest you take down notes so that it's easier for you to frame an answer. That's the whole point of the exercise. So you see, infrastructure financing requires money. Government right now is funding 95% of it. Okay, your scheduled commercial banks can't undertake that project, which means you need a specialized agency, which is this, okay, which has, say, 100% government ownership right now. But eventually, the government wants 26%, 74% to the private entities. That's the whole point. The Western model of development to be tailored and made fit for our Indian context. Okay. So this is the factual basis. Let's go forward. So infrastructure financing. Now, let's look at this. This is a report, guys. Please make a note of this. Financing India's infrastructural needs. A report by the World Bank. Straight away, you will have a question like this. 4 options: Niti Aayog, this Aayog, that Aayog, World Bank. If, again, the Tukka wala crowd, no? Those who do not know but still will test their gut feeling, they will straight away think, Acha, India's infrastructural needs. Why will World Bank be interested? Must be Niti Aayog. There is it. You will go beyond the cutoff line now. See? So it's a report by the World Bank. Make a note of this. And this report says, by the year 2036, 600 million people will be living in urban cities. Okay, 40% of the population. So you are going to have in the next few years a massive migration of people from rural to urban areas. Why will that happen, guys? More income opportunities, this widening gap of infrastructure between the towns, the rural centers and, say, the urban centers. Okay. Plus more income opportunities, more education, more awareness. People are now moving towards better opportunities in life. Okay. Upskilling is happening on a major basis. So after all, if you are skilled in a particular art or a particular expertise that you have, why would you not, say, come to urban centers? It's human. You want to go and fend for your family. What would you do in the rural centers? How does that affect the country now? Most of this population that is migrating from here to here from rural to urban, they were in the agriculture sector. Okay, unorganized labor as we know it. Sure, dance floor. I have covered, in fact. Indo-US, I think we did just a couple of days ago. Go through the PDF on the Telegram channel. It will be very interesting for you. We covered India-US relations in detail, in fact. I think we did. Yeah, I think we did. Okay, I'll just have a look at it. If you have any doubts, please reach out to me. So you're looking at this outflux of people from agriculture industry to say other sectors. Again, you're going to hit the agriculture industry there too. At the same time, you're also looking at a situation where our urban centers will be stressed. Think of it right now only. For those of you who have, say, been to major metropolitans of India, say Chennai, Bengaluru, Mumbai, Delhi, Calcutta, Kolkata. Okay. You will see that right now only, in 2023, forget 2036, right now itself our urban centers are stressed beyond imagination. Okay. There's problems of water, problems of transport, problems of mobility. Okay. Environment, Delhi people will know, yeah, that we have to literally take in smoke to work here. So what is this happening? More and more stress on your urban centers. Okay. That the centers are not able to sustain the large amount of population that is there. The quality of life is severely compromised, is it not? Tell me. You must have felt this. I know it for sure that I feel it on a daily basis. Okay. The quality of life. The rural areas, you are going to have better food, better air, but no opportunity. Here in, say, the bigger towns, bigger cities, you are looking at none of that, but opportunity. Opportunity to earn, opportunity to go ahead in life, opportunity for getting more opportunities, right? So that mismatch needs to be addressed. How are you going to address that? How are you going to make sure that your cities that are currently so stressed, yes, try driving in Bengaluru in the evening or in Delhi during office hour. You will understand how stressed our cities are. It's just not that the cities are also stressed, you will also get stressed. Again, quality of life. Okay. So how do you make sure that the cities are not stressed? You go ahead and invest in a lot of infrastructure. Build your cities such that they become centers of growth. Okay. That there is at least a basic quality of life that you can offer to an individual. Okay. So how are you going to do that now? Look at this. More pressure on urban centers, both infra and service under pressure. Both infra, you'll have to quote both. Let me see, there are some comments here. Absolutely, Nalajana, you are absolutely correct in your assessment. Yes, dance floor, that's true. Like I'm telling you, the quality of life will be severely affected. It is in fact affected. Okay. So look at this stat now. 5% of the infrastructure is being financed through private resources. 95% of the financing is being done by the government. You see, the problem is this. It is not the government's job to finance infrastructure projects of huge value through exchequer money. You shouldn't do that. How are you going to do that? Go ahead and invest in PPP, the public-private partnership model. However, we have challenges there too. What could be the challenges? Think for a moment now, guys. You want to go ahead and set up, say, a particular factory. For example, we'll take a very brief example. You want to go ahead, set up a particular factory. Just the identification and allocation of land, it's a major headache. Forget the rest of the bureaucratic thing that comes and goes. Just the identification and allocation, the registry of that land to a particular business entity. It's a major headache. So straight away, these private partners, they are straight away put off. Who wants to get into this mess where there is again a problem right at the very beginning only? Kahan factory dalenge? That you do not know. So PPP in India has major challenges. Financing projects, service, okay, connectivity. You need power, you need water, all of that are problems. You know what problems do we have with discoms also? Absolutely dance floor. Any paper in fact. See, if you are preparing for UPSC, by default, your current affairs is done for all exams in India. With absolute confidence, I can tell you. If you have prepared for UPSC, you will ace any interview in India. Obviously, not the technical ones. If you even go and sit for a CAT interview, You will know what to say because you know the bigger picture, you know facts, you know analysis, you have good opinion. That's all you need to know. That's the point of news analysis, guys. You are not supposed to be journalists where you just consume a lot of news but don't know what to do of it. You are training to be officers. As officers, you will be getting one paragraph of information that will be drafted by your juniors. You have to make sense of it quickly and then take your decision. Yeah. So that's the whole point of it. Okay. So a massive financing gap for infra is to be addressed straight away. This is the problem, guys. Our urban centers are stressed and we do not have the money to make sure that our urban centers are not stressed. Major challenge. Correct, Nala Jana? Well, yes, absolutely. Financing is the problem. You will understand. See, we'll just go ahead and see. So, a major step in this direction was taken by the central government when they set up the National Infrastructural Pipeline. Okay, what is the NIP? What is the aim of it? It aims to boost the economy to create more employment in different sectors. How are you going to create employment? Go ahead and create infrastructure. Because infrastructure will not be built by magic. You will need people to build it, which means income opportunities will come. Okay. All sectors enhance ease of living for its citizens. This Bengaluru traffic jam, no water in Delhi, Bombay is getting submerged every monsoon. All of these issues. They are what? They severely hamper the quality of life of a particular person who is staying in a major metropolitan city. Right? So you need to address that. So this is again a major problem. And make growth more inclusive. Right now what is happening is our urban centers are growing. Our rural centers are not growing to the same level as urban centers. So to make sure that this obviously is fortified, at the same time you are able to stop or minimize this migration happening from rural, what you are looking at doing? Fortifying both the agencies, guys. समझ रहे हो आप लोग? ठीक है? Okay. So this will enable better project preparation, reducing aggressive bids, ensuring enhanced access to sources of finance, all of this. What is project preparation? Tell me what is project preparation? The exact thing that I told you about, identification of land. Okay, identification of land. Say paperwork. Okay, all the regulatory framework and paperwork that you have to do. What is this? Regulatory framework. All of this are what? Part of the preparation. Now, if that is not addressed in the first point, you are looking at a major problem. Okay. You are going to build investor confidence. See, this is shaken. Why are people not coming for PPP? Public-private partnership. Why is that not happening? Why is that not taking off? Because the investor confidence is shook. Okay. They don't believe that there is a profit-making opportunity by getting into this. You need to make it sustainable for them, viable for them. You need to facilitate that particular process right at the grassroots so that as an investor, I am keen to go ahead and invest my money in these kind of projects. That ecosystem is not created yet. Okay. By actively monitoring projects, bring needed reforms. More institutional funding will give the government bandwidth to invest in other areas. See, this 95% stat that we have, how are you going to reduce it? Bring institutional funding. Say anchor investors. Okay, let's discuss now. What are anchor investors? So to reduce this 95%, you are looking at bringing in anchor investors. Quickly tell me what are anchor investors? How many of you invest in the stock market, guys? How many of you invest in the stock market? After coronavirus pandemic, I think everyone has got a stock market account suddenly. Why? Because increased disposable income, lack of time, too much of time, nothing to do. So in stock markets, whenever you have an initial public offering, IPO, right? All these companies, big companies will have IPO, Zomato, Nykaa, all of these companies will have IPO that they will offer shares to the public, right? So before they offer shares to the public, these shares are offered to anchor investors, say mutual funds, high net value investors who are not, see, if you and I go ahead and buy in the stock market, as a startup, we'll probably invest in not more than 10,000 rupees. Anchor investors are looking at huge sums to the point that they can stabilize the price of a stock, right? So anchor investors, you need more and more of these people to come in to reduce this 95%. There's something wrong today. One sec. Okay. So to reduce this 95%, you are looking at more and more anchor investors that should come in. Okay. Mutual funds, high net value individuals, investors, okay. Foreign banks also. All of these essentially come in and stabilize the price of that particular stock. So if they come in this particular industry, in the infrastructure financing industry, you are looking at this 95% of government share that I just told you about, that will straight away go down. There needs to be an impetus, an opportunity for them. You need to create that opportunity. As the government, that's your job. Okay. So that's NIP. Make a note of the NIP, guys. Extremely important, especially if you are looking to answer in the examination. Any discussion on infrastructure financing, if it does not include the NIP, if it does not include, say, the PM Gati Shakti plan. सुना है इसके बारे में? PM Gati Shakti plan. Have you heard of this? The PM Gati Shakti plan. Go ahead, read about this today, guys. What does the PM Gati Shakti do? Tell me, anyone who's watching this live. क्या करता है PM Gati Shakti plan में? क्या होता है? Infrastructure, it's to do with infrastructure only, no? It's to do with infrastructure monitoring, making sure that you take feedback in real time, that there is consistent oversight on a project, that there is interlinkage of the project, that it is not being done off in isolation. Suna hai? Go ahead and read about this. Very interesting. So you will see how the NIP, the infrastructure, the PM Gati Shakti program, all of this together, they are now basically creating that ecosystem. This ecosystem to make sure that the government does not have to give out 95 rupees out of 100 to make our bridges or our roads. Not desired. ठीक है? All right. So let's look at the sector-wise breakup of the NIP now. कहाँ पे सबसे ज़्यादा पैसा लग रहा है? Where is the government having to spend the most amount of money? You will see that roads, 20% closed. Say out of 100 rupees, you're looking at 20 rupees that is going for roads. For urban housing, you're looking at 17 rupees. Railways, close to 14 rupees. Power, 12 rupees. बाकी सब तो ठीक है. Look at this now. Huh? Roads, you know the kind of infrastructure that there has been, no? Have you seen that? The road infrastructure has taken off in a major way. So many expressways you have, so many tunnels being built, so many last mile connectivities also being given a thought of. All that requires money. How much and why should the government fund all of it? It's a fair question to ask, because if the government was not having to spend this money, say 17 plus 20, 37, 51, 63 rupees out of 100. 37, 40, 63 rupees out of 100, it is essentially having to spend on what? Conventional power, railways, urban housing, roads. Roti, kapda, makan wala scene hai. This needs to be reduced, guys. Only then can it invest more money in renewable energy. Can it invest more money in, say, petroleum, natural gas, atomic energy, all of the others that require more capital. Okay. How are you going to do this? Create the ecosystem. Go ahead, bring more of anchor investors, institutional investors, you can call them. Okay. Basically, you're looking at institutional investing. Government wants to reduce its liability. ठीक है? Let's go forward now. So there is a fund that has been created now. Straight away, the government creates a fund. The National Investment and Infrastructure Fund, the NIIF. What is this? It's the first sovereign wealth fund of India. Make a note of this, please. It's the first sovereign wealth fund of India. What is sovereign wealth? Can someone tell me very quickly in the chat what's sovereign wealth? What's your understanding of sovereign wealth? Look at this. It will provide long-term capital for infra-related projects. Okay. The whole point of this fund is go ahead and fund infrastructure-related projects. Okay. Create that opportunity to finance that deficit that exists, that infra deficit, no? Infra financing deficit that I told you about. So it is looking to address this straight away. So what does it do? It raises funds, attracts anchor investors. end-to-end responsibility of vendor identification and finalization consultancy. End-to-end responsibility क्या है जो मैंने आपको बताया अभी, all the problems that are there in setting up a business. Okay, right from say land identification, registry, getting the proper clearances from the local government, from the state government, all the regulatory approvals, framework. There's a lot of paperwork. Okay, lot of paperwork. In fact, if you just look at setting up one particular factory anywhere in India, you will realize it's like it'll test your patience. So to make sure that that process is easy, because again, as an investor, I don't want my patient tested. You take my money, give my profit. That's all I'm interested in. Don't give me headache. So to remove the headache, okay. So it has three main types of funds. Please make a note of this too. It has three funds: master fund, fund of funds, strategic fund. Correct dance floor. Okay, you get the sense of sovereign wealth fund. Sovereign wealth is essentially what? The wealth of the sovereign, the money that is there in the country, and that is going to be used within the country. Okay, sovereign wealth fund. It is to do with, say, usage within the territorial boundaries of the country. It will again have, say, money from both public and private. Okay, that is sovereign wealth fund. So master fund, you are looking at investing in well-established sectoral enterprises having long-term agreement. So what is this? Suppose you go ahead and ask L&T, or these bigger names, established names in infrastructure creation, Tata. Call them in, bring them in, incentivize it for them. Who is going to build? These big organizations only. Our parliament was built by whom? Tell me. The new parliament that has come up. Any of you who have been to Delhi that time, you must have seen the company's name in these big boards that were set up right in front of the parliament. The new parliament. Okay. So you want these players to come in because they have the expertise, the know-how, the experience of doing this. Okay. Fund of funds, investing in funds that are managed by renowned fund managers with excellent track record, anchor investors. It is for them. And strategic fund, investing in equity and equity-related instruments. These three together make sure that the NIIF is a credible body, that it has the resources financially to go ahead and invest in infrastructure creation. Do you realize that? Tata was the one. Good. Do you realize? So you need those kind of players in, plus you need the anchor investors, and at the same time NIF, which is a corporate body in fact, it is also going to go ahead and invest in equity related instruments in the market. So that fund needs to be cycled, no? You need more. If there is outflow, there needs to be inflow also of the fund. ऐसा थोड़ी ना कि 100 रुपया था तो 100 रुपया ही रहेगा. It will increase, no? So for that you have these type of three strategic funds. You are looking at sectoral growth. Okay. Sectoral infrastructure creation. Say some companies have expertise of building renewable projects. They're very good at that. Some companies have expert in building, say, urban development projects. Some companies are better with, say, road creation. So to bring the established players in, you need to incentivize it for them. You are going to incentivize it through the NIIF. Have this participatory model in place. Okay? Let's go forward. So the points to consider now. So when you look at the Indian Express article for today, these are the major points the author of the article is trying to say. Now that you know the whole background story, the itihas behind the infrastructure financing in India, now let's look at the points to consider. So the NIP, the infrastructure pipeline, must factor in climate-related stress, the same problem that multilateral development banks abroad face. We have done this extensively on the problems of the multilateral development banks going forward. The same problems exist for us also. That enough is not being done to, say, factor in that climate change is straight away linked to the infrastructure you create. How are you going to ameliorate that risk factor? Make sure that climate change is a part of the policy planning. Okay? That climate change and climate change related stress, okay, climate change related stress is a part of the policy planning. Okay. Now what do you find? That this is there in fact. If you look at the current scope of NIP, you find that yes, it is mentioned. However, it's mentioned as a part of the broader framework. You need that kind of thrust in sectoral wise. Please understand this. This is a part of a broader objective. What you need is this goal now should be applied to individual sectors. Customize this goal for, say, renewables, for road creation, for transport, for the others, urban centers. This, needs to be customized for each of these. You can't just have a broader framework and then say hope that it works out. It will not work out. Okay. So this is needed. NIP must move away from grey infrastructure to blue-green infrastructure. Make a note of this. UPSC loves these color-coded questions. Color-coded questions UPSC को बहुत पसंद है. So make a note of this. We'll discuss in just 2 minutes what is blue-green infrastructure. What are grey infrastructures? The ones that are there in the cities currently. Okay. The ones that are not, say, in sync with the local environmental requirements. That they are not serving an environmental purpose. That there is no recycling happening. Okay. It's just like a concrete structure that you have created wherein just people dwell, but nothing is happening in terms of recycling the local infrastructure. No. Okay. So that needs to be taken care of. Change must happen in both broad policy framework plus sectoral needs. Exactly this. Our broad policy framework mentions that yes, climate change stress must be taken into consideration, but that is where it ends. After that, the story has no linkage only. ठीक है, आपने बता दिया कि ये करना है पॉलिसी में. उसके बाद क्या है? In terms of sectoral, where is the application of that thought? Not there. So you see, you just don't want it on a broad policy level framework, but you want it individually. Tell me what you are going to do for, say, road creation. So you must have heard, say, plastics are being used for road creation. Climate change factor is being taken in. You're recycling plastics to create roads. Right? So that type of linkage has to be created, wherein you are using products from others to create infrastructure which are going to be sustainable to climate change. Resilient to climate change. Do you understand that? Are you able to get it? It's a little linked topic. So there is a scope of getting confused. But I'm trying to break it down for you for the easiest manner. If you have any doubts, quickly let me know in the chat, guys. Don't get confused in this. क्योंकि इस पे सवाल फंसते हैं. Infrastructure financing is a topic which you ought to know in depth. All the other bodies from the prelims point of view, what is NIIF, what is NIP, no problems. You will take care of those things if you know the exact work that each party does. Okay? Alright. So need to take advantage of innovative financial products. Green bonds, you must have heard of this, read about it. Sustainability linked bonds that are linked to, say, have an ecological connotation. Okay. PPP model, look to have a collaborative approach. This bank that has been set up, it needs to have a collaborative approach with downstream contractors, invest in pre-planning, site identification. Major problem. Land is a major problem. Go ahead and liaise with the downstream contractors, those who will become a part of the industry, ancillary contractors. Take their considerations, get information from them. They are the ones who are going to set the factory up and then use it, create value for you in the economy. All this is important. Why, guys? Why do you think this is important? Because when the Prime Minister says that we have to become a $5 trillion economy, yes, all that is co-dependent on this being pulled off. Because you're not going to become a $5 trillion economy just by government funding. That's not desired also. Then the government would have over-leveraged itself. Okay. You have these FRBM Act, where the government is looking to, say, reduce its own deficit also. So if it keeps investing money in infrastructure, which is again not designed to take care of the climate change effects that are going to happen in the next 20-30 years, then the money that you spend today will be spending 2x the money in again 10 years to create the same infrastructure. At the same time, these urban centers which will become overpopulated. So imagine right now, if, say, Delhi is able to create, say, 100 crores value on a daily basis. Okay. If you are going to do this, all of this, if you are going to create green cities, blue-green cities in fact, you will see this 100 crore per day will become 500 crore per day. Your output will increase because the quality of life will increase. The time that people are spending in transportation, Huh? 2 hours of traffic jam you are sitting. For those 2 hours, maybe for the 1 hour you would have been working, you would have created value in the economy. Do you realize that? Which is why this is important. You are not going to become $5 trillion economy by not doing the structural reforms that are needed. Which is why infrastructure financing is of utmost importance. And it is a concept that has both the linkages, guys. Please understand this too. That infra financing, don't look at it in isolation just from the economics perspective. Of course, it is an economics concept, but it is also an environmental concept now. Why? Because both MDBs plus our own NIIF and NIP must take care of the climate change when they are going ahead and creating infrastructure. Do you realize UPSC can form a very good question on this now? So unless you know the linkages, how will you answer the question? Then some people will write some vaguely worded answer, then be surprised when UPSC don't give them the marks. Okay. All right. So blue-green infrastructure, guys. Make a note of this slide. Please make a note of this slide. Again, these are the kind of commonly expected topics, the low-hanging fruits. If you don't know this, because these are low-hanging fruits, the 99% of the UPSC crowd, the serious crowd, will know what is a blue-green infrastructure. A system of urban planning, keyword urban planning, that helps in solving urban and climatic challenges by a combination of infrastructure, ecological restoration, and urban design to connect people with nature. More green spaces, more horticulture within the city. Okay. Making sure that you have, say, a lane for cyclists. It's a green measure. How? You are incentivizing people to use bicycles and not, say, take out their diesel guzzling cars. You are incentivizing it, which means you are creating a green corridor, a green city. Small steps which will get a behavioral change from the public. Okay. Blue indicates water bodies such as rivers and tanks. Green indicates trees, parks and gardens. Please realize, why are water bodies essential? Why are water bodies essential in urban centers? If you have looked at the example of Bengaluru, okay, Bengaluru has this problem where, say, after the growth, expansion of the city, they encroached upon the different lakes that were there. So now what happens is, when it rains, well, obviously the nature is designed such that the water drains towards that area. So you have these areas that are completely flooded. Then people act surprised, ye kya ho raha hai? Well, you created your project on a particular lake area. You encroached on the area of the lake and now you are surprised that why are you flooded. See? So you need to conserve your water bodies. Okay. One good example of this is in Calcutta. Okay, in Kolkata, you have the Salt Lake wetland system. Okay, Salt Lake wetland system. It's a fantastic example of how you should go ahead and create this local ecological value. Have you heard of this, guys? The Salt Lake wetland system? Because I've been there, I'll tell you. In the morning, when you are coming from, say, Salt Lake, which is on the outskirts of Kolkata, to the main city, you will find that vast amounts of vegetables, fish, all of that is being taken to the mandi inside the whole city. Because Salt Lake wetland ecosystem is such that it is able to grow food to a very large extent. It can feed the whole population there. It is able to give fishery products also. It is creating employment opportunities for those people who are there engaged in it. So you realize this becomes very important. You have to create that type of ecosystem, guys, where job creation is also happening. At the same time, it's a sustainable model for the city. It is sourcing its food, its fish from that place. Realize? So this is, again, one example is of Bengaluru, where I told you, where they have encroached upon their wetlands or the lakes. One example is of Calcutta, where they haven't. In fact, they have gone ahead and made it a better project. See, there are the two approaches. Which one is desired? The Calcutta model. Go ahead, do it. Okay. Green indicates trees, parks, gardens. Again, something that Bengaluru has done well in. Okay. You see, Bengaluru is also called the what? The city of parks, I think. A city of lakes. Lakes, I think, but now no more. Okay. You look at New Delhi. At least the central area of New Delhi. Full greenery. Yeah. You move on to, say, North Delhi, East Delhi, West Delhi, suddenly there are no trees. So you need that replication to be done, because you can't have an urban center. Have you heard of that urban heat centers? Huh? Where because of too much of concrete, well, it is retaining heat right through the night. The local ambient temperature is still so high. You don't have trees, you have concrete. You have climate change that is happening. People are getting, heat waves are coming every day. People are dying because of heat waves. And yet, well, then what's the way out then? So you go ahead and invest in blue-green infrastructure. Okay. So look at these other countries that have done it. Make a note of this too. Which country has done where? Okay. In fact, even China also has done it. As much as I would begrudgingly, city of garden city, correct. Begrudgingly admit, well, look at this. Singapore has the Active, Beautiful, Clean Waters program. Okay. Grey to Green initiative in United States, Rain City strategy, Canada, Sponge City, China. Make a note of this. You can quote this in the answers at least. Okay. So look at this now, blue-green infrastructure. It plans interconnected networks of natural and semi-natural areas. Water bodies are included. Green and open spaces. Okay. Ecosystem services is the point. Okay. That is the way you are going to go ahead. Green infrastructure, straight away. You are looking at natural areas, lots of greenery. Okay. And grey infrastructure, what we have today. Okay. That what we have today is grey infrastructure, where we are not doing this. None of this is taken care of. Samajh rahe ho aap? So this is the problem, guys. And this is how we are looking to address it. Now, one I think we have to look at is the shortcomings. The roadblocks. So this again, just have a look at the different roadblocks. I'll share this in the Telegram channel. Have a look at the roadblocks for each sector. I have told you, that broad policy framework, okay, that broad policy framework needs to be applied sectoral wise. Have I not told you that just 5 minutes ago? Look at this slide and then you will be able to tell me what you should do for ports, what you should do for airports, what you should do for rail, okay, what you should do for renewable. This slide will give you the answer to those concepts. Have a look at this slide, because again, if I start telling you each and every one, then it will extend past 9 a.m. Please do this. It's a very important concept. That broad policy framework needs to be applied to, say, sectoral areas. And how are you going to identify what to do? Go ahead, look at this slide. What are the challenges? You'll come up with the solutions. Clear? Ekdam saaf hai, no problems. Because make sure that you're up to date with this topic, guys. Okay. I can assure you it's a very important topic. I don't say this for every topic, but infrastructure financing, if India is to become a $5 trillion economy, it's going to have to do all of this. And as UPSC aspirants for next year, someone who will be a part of that service life, up until 2047, you are going to have to work for this. So better know about this. ठीक है? All right, guys. So now you will tell me the answer to this. बताइए, इसका answer बताइए. Then I'll have a little bit of water. Where is the question? Here. Yes. Tell me the answer to this, guys. Now tell me. Quickly answer in the chat. Meanwhile, I'll have a sip of water. Borrowing from RBI, SCB, mutual fund, MDB, lending to depositors, raising money through loans, sale of bonds, debentures. Which of them are to do with the National Bank for Financing Infrastructure Development? Quickly, guys. We have another 7-8 minutes. So I have one more topic to do for you. Are you sure ये होता है? Have I told you about the risk factor, guys? Why say SBI will not lend? Why SBI will lend but not this? So obviously, this bank will not be lending to depositors. For sure. Okay, not happening. The rest two are correct. Why? Because it has to raise money. That's the whole ambit of it. Okay. So which of the above are within the operating remit? One is obviously yes. It can ask for money, raise money. And two, it can invest in equity linked schemes. Equity linked भी करता है ना वो. Strategic fund में मैंने आपको कहा था. ठीक है. Two तो for sure नहीं है. Borrowing from RBI, SCB, mutual fund, multilateral development banks. Yes, it can. Absolutely. Eventually, it is going to have to raise money, And so, if it is raising money from the same places where, say, it would ideally have raised, then the whole purpose is lost. समझे आप लोग? 2 तो गलत है, ठीक है? 2 is गलत for sure. Depositors are not a part of this. The risk factor has to be taken care of. Clear? Okay, now we shall move forward to the second one. Now you can relax because the difficult topic for today has been done. Okay, this was an important topic. Now after this, no guys, what I suggest after the class ends, go ahead and take a look at this article now. Okay, it is in the Indian Express. I forget the name of the author, but a very well written article. Go ahead and पढ़िए इसको एक बार. ठीक? After the class ends, it will take you 10 minutes to read it and you will be like, अच्छा, exactly I get what he is trying to say. She, a female author, well written article. आप पढ़ना इसको. ठीक है? All right, now let's go forward and let's look at, okay, straight away. You also have some water. Meanwhile, I'll tell you about the CSAT batch. That is, again, today is the 28th, so 2 more days, guys. Okay, 30th is when we begin. The class plan I have had a look at and my God, it is extensive. It is going to prepare you in the best manner possible, especially given 2023's prelims paper was a rude shock. Okay, it was not expected. Unfair, I agree. But now that it is gone, done and dusted, the best way for future batches, the future batches is prepare yourself in the level that is expected now. You know, and us also, we'll have to make sure that we give you the exact conceptual knowledge that you can apply in the examination, rather than just throwing everything at you and hoping that you make sense of it. That makes no sense. Okay. So this is again a very scientifically prepared course. I will be taking the RC classes. For those of you who have in fact seen my RC classes, just prior to prelims, I had taken around 19 classes for reading comprehension. And surprisingly, I was surprised, we did a lot of previous year's questions. And the learnings from there, if a student were to have applied in the 2023 reading comprehension questions, आपका RC गलत नहीं होता. Maths का चलो मैं समझ सकता हूँ. Maths was again very unfair. But RC questions you would have managed आराम से. Cut-off would not have been a problem. Okay, so we have excellent faculty here for RC, for maths and for reasoning. So go ahead, have a look at their profiles, have a look at the classes that I've taken just prior to prelims. Okay, this is called the Reading Comprehension Revision Series. Go ahead, have a look at that. The demo classes are there. In fact, not demo, the whole series is there. 19 classes I've taken. Go ahead, have a look. If it matches your expectation. Okay, if you believe that I can help you out with your CSAT, sign up for this, use this code, as that assures I become a part of your journey. And for those of you who sign up, 30th evening is when we begin. Those of you who don't worry, stay ahead, continue with us and we'll figure out some way in the future. But then this is obviously a more targeted approach, something that I would advise a serious aspirant to do. Okay. So now this is again another second article for today coming from the Indian Express. You know, I've become a fan of this newspaper. Brilliant newspaper. YouTube pe hai, dance floor. If you go to a playlist, if you go to the StudyIQ English channel and you look at the playlist, okay, you look at that reading comprehension series that is there. There are 19 videos in it. Have a look at them and use the code and sign up. All right. So now this article from the Indian Express about museums, and it talks about imagining the ideal museum. Now, at a time when India is looking to say bring back its antiques from abroad, it's been a major thrust issue for the Prime Minister, for the government in fact. Yes, there were also talks that the government of India will now go ahead and get back Kohinoor. Suna hai? So now all of that is fine. We are going to go ahead, get all our antiques and treasures back. But are we prepared to say take care of them, interpret them, understand them in the same manner as say a museum in London or France or Paris is? Okay, that is again not very difficult to answer. You know, our museums are not very good. Okay, so this is the problem. Again, a very good question is, are our museums failing us or are we failing our museums? You know, because again, just to say that our museums are bad is shirking responsibility of you and I. We also have a responsibility which again not many are aware of. Okay, that we would say like to go to a mall or watch a movie in a theatre with bad VFX, but not take our children to say the National Museum or the local museums that exist in India, says a lot about our priorities. Okay, so this is a question that you can consider answering. Go ahead and see if you can come up with points based on what I tell you right now. Okay, I have also done a video on this on StudyIQ IAS called, I forget the name, but it's to do with museums. Okay, The museums of India. Go ahead and have a look at that too. It's an in-depth discussion in this topic. ठीक है, awareness तो ठीक है dance floor. Awareness is required in India for everything. Do you realize that? I mean, I can straight away tell you that right now I'm say unaware about the large term implications of AI. All of us are unaware to a certain extent about something or the other. So you can apply that in any answer. Okay. But the larger, more specific issues we'll look at. So let's look at the specific issues, the challenges that exist in here. The lack of vision and expertise in a museum. And vision how? That's a museums are going to, essentially what are museums? They are centers of learning. They are centers where you protect, say, artifacts and also learn from them. Understand the relevance of that particular artifact, say something that belonged to say 1500 years ago. What's its story? What was its relevance in that particular time? Is it part of a continuous frame of thought, say from that particular year till 2023? Yeah. At the same time, expertise. Who is the museum director? Okay. Someone who's cleared civil services with a high rank, but at the same time has no particular expertise in particular, say, museumology. Do you know what this is? Museumology. Museumology. This is the science of managing museums, right? So you don't have specific people. You have a generalist. What are Indian administrative service officers? They are generalists, no? They have a fair idea of everything, but they're not specialists. Museumology is a very special concept. Specialist you need to be the director. Okay. Untrained HR, you go inside the museum. The guide comes, he gives you the same information that you find in Wikipedia. तो यार वो तो मैं भी कर सकता हूँ ना. आप मुझे ये बताओगे कि क्या उसका relevance है. If there is a chhadi kept in front of the museum, please tell me the relevance of the chhadi. हाँ? Rather than tell me कि अच्छा ये फलाना आदमी ने इतना वो किया तो क्या करूँ मैं उस information का. Do you understand? So our HR is not good enough, and that begins from the top, from director level up till guide level. There's not a lot of information. Lack of scientific preservation practices, security. You had a particular incident where in the museum in Kolkata, I think it's called the Victoria Museum. Okay, a museum in Kolkata basically damaged two ancient artifacts that belong to say some Chola Empire or something. Do you realize that there is no adequate security? If you go to these museums, they're all old, dilapidated buildings, no proper signage. Nothing, you know, that a particular thing, an artifact is kept in front of you. It is written falana falana, something XYZ, circa some year 1548. So what am I to make of this information? वो जो सामान रखा है वहाँ पे, whatever is kept there, can you give me more information about it at least? What was the relevance? What is it made of? What was it used for? Where was it retrieved from? All of that is valuable information for any student of history, no? Just telling me what it is and which date it was found, how does that benefit me as a student who wants to learn? Okay. Academia and museum disconnect, because again, museums are going to store the artifact for you. The interpretation of that has to be done by subject experts who are sitting in, say, major universities of India. Okay. The Archaeological Survey of India is responsible for taking that particular object, making sure that it is in a safe state. However, the interpretation of whatever you have pulled out from under the soil, that has to be done by historians, by experts of that era. So, unless you have that connect with the academia, institutions, how are you going to understand it? Because again, Archaeological Survey of India also, the recruitment, they're not going and getting, say, historians, no? They are getting people who are good in, say, that particular science of extraction or whatever they're doing. But that interpretation of what they have extracted, that has to be done by experts. Again, museums do not have that kind of autonomy to form these kind of, linkages with the industry. Okay. Lack of funding, autonomy, displays without context. All of this you have understood now. Funding, obviously, because it's museums. You know what, Sandeepan, I agree with you that we need the help of AI and VR. That is a very good idea you have said. In fact, you will see what the Indian government has done is that there is a focus on digitization now. So all these artifacts that are there, say 1000 artifacts in the National Museum, if you go and visit their website, you will see that there are pages where you will find this has been taken care of. Okay, they have explained to a certain extent. I was checking out the video of the website last night itself. So they have taken care of it to a certain extent. But as a visitor, imagine, who are you building museums for? For children, no? Children are going to be the ones who are going to take that forward. You and I will figure out the digital way. But to have that physical connect, this academia museum disconnect that I'm talking about, not just in terms of, say, interpretation, but also bringing in communities, having more school visits, field visits, college visits. So unless you are going to improve the same thing in the physical building itself, do the same thing that you have done in digitization, where you have given, say, a relevant context to that artifact. Do that in physical portions also. Because eventually what? You will agree that museums are to do with communities. They are for communities. People. And if people are not coming, then communities are not being served. At the same time, the onus is also on the people to go ahead and include museums, be interested in it. Because why are museums important? They tell you from where you have come, where you have reached, and where you are going to go. What's your heritage that you carry? We are also proud, rightly so, that India is a land of rich heritage and culture and tradition. Good. How are you going to conserve it, preserve it for the future generations? Museums. Okay. You have so many dialects that have been lost in India. How could they have been conserved? Museums. Yes. That is important, guys, which is why it's very interlinked. And museums, it's a very boring topic, but it's something that the UPSC loves. UPSC loves boring topics. They're not going to ask you about the interesting topics, guys. Of course, Sandipan. See, I understand that. You're making very fair points. But do you realize, first they have to begin from basics. Okay. The basics has to be that first you make the museum a place of learning. Include, say, visual representation, audio-visual technologies. Make it an interactive process rather than just like something is kept in front of me on a table in a glass frame and I'm looking at it thinking ki ye kya dekh raha hu main. That is important. That's how you are going to evoke interest in the particular person. Okay. All right. So that, please consider answering this. Okay. 250 words, not more. I'm not looking for more than 250 words. But tell me, which side are you taking on? Okay. Because UPSC answers force you to choose sides. They force you to present analysis. This will require a fair bit of analysis to answer. Okay. Go ahead and answer this for me. Meanwhile, this brings to end this particular class. Before you guys sign off, log off and go ahead with your daily routine, please like this stream for me. Okay. What I see is that the views, well, we get the views what I expect right now. Obviously, it can be a lot better. But the likes don't come up at all. So please go ahead, my dear students. I can only implore you, request you, go ahead and like the stream for me. If you like something, go ahead and leave me a comment. If you didn't like something, leave a comment for that too. Okay, all feedback is welcome. Because this whole exercise every morning is for you. Alright. And before I sign off, again, the prelims to interview batch also closing admissions in a couple of days. 30th evening is when we finally close admissions to this. Classes have begun, just begun. So it's not too late for you to be a part of this batch because again, we do not know when the next batch comes. Okay. So it's best advised, start early, stay focused, understand the analysis, partake in writing practice, solve questions, and you will see that just by October, November, you will be in a very comfortable position. That you will be able to form an analysis of every topic that we are discussing. Okay, that's all you need to do. Stay with me for 1 hour every morning. I do the hard work, you understand, go through the PDF. The only work you need to do is answer after you have understood this whole concept. Trust me, it will help you. By October, you will see a visible change in your own current affairs knowledge. Like I mentioned last evening in my group, Telegram channel, that current affairs is not something that you can straight away understand by reading a booklet. Okay, the facts can be gained from there. But the analysis is important, guys, especially for mains. नहीं तो क्या होगा, आधा crowd prelims किसी तरह से clear करके mains पहुंचेंगे, and in mains you will be found out. You don't want that. Okay. All right. So make sure if you are looking for the P2I batch, use this code, guys, because that assures me, in fact, ensures that I become a part of your journey. Okay. That's essentially the whole point of it. Okay. Okay. So with that, we come to the end of this particular class for the 28th of June. Before going once again, may I request you, like the stream for me. And I shall see all of you once again tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. with another set of topics. Meanwhile, please go ahead and send the answers for the mains question to my email ID. I would really appreciate it. Okay. 6-7 students have been sending. In fact, today morning I received an answer, well-drafted answer on the consumer rights that we did yesterday. Okay. So go ahead, answer. There are around 8, 9, 10 individuals who are sending on a regular basis. You also join me. This is my email ID. Send me your answers because you have nothing to lose, guys. The only thing that you are going to do is understand where you can improve. This is okay. bhuvan.jha@studyiq.com. Go ahead and answer that for me. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for your understanding. Thank you, Coda. Thanks. All right. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Have a wonderful